Welcome to the Date Forever podcast. Keep your relationship fueled up with strategies discovered by couples and experts. Because at Fuel Collective, we believe better relationships will equal a better world. You are about to discover specific insights and tools that cost little or nothing to implement to help you date forever. And now, here are your hosts, a couple who always have a half-packed suitcase and a date night in the calendar, Sammy and Nathan Yeager.
Hello and welcome to Date Forever. In this week's episode, we're chatting about juggling competing priorities in life, being each other's greatest support, and the importance of wanting to give in your relationship. Before we get into it, Sammy, what's been fueling you up this week?
The thing that fueled me up last week was also the thing that had me on the couch flat as anything on Sunday. I went out dancing and it was amazing. Yes, and I drank too many vodka Red Bulls that kept me wide awake.
Up all night and
literally
dead the next day.
Yeah, literally. My heart was probably, if you'd put it on an ECG machine, it would have been like, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. It was erratic and I was irresponsible. And it was amazing.
You went home too late though, like midnight or 12:30 or something. So.
Yeah, but I also went out at like 8 p.m. or something. So yeah, it was super fun. It was a gay bar. It was drag queens and performances and just amazing. I don't need too many like big nights out in a year, but I need a few.
Yeah.
And it was so nice after lockdown. This is the first like nightclub night out.
Been to the pub a few times. But...
Yeah. Well, not since they've relaxed dancing restrictions in New South Wales.
Yeah.
So this was my first night out dancing, and I loved it. And my body was sore, and I'd forgotten how to wear heels, and it was just great. Yeah, last week was rough actually. Like I had a really like up and down, like mental energy kind of week.
Bit of an emotional week.
Yeah. I just had a few balls in the air and a few things going on with some of the people in my inner circle, and they were going through a pretty turbulent time. And I think sometimes I can be a bit too empathetic, or I take on a lot of that. When my friends are in pain, I feel that pain.
Yeah, you do. You really do.
Yeah. So I had a few things going on with work and with like career stuff and business stuff. And then a few of my friends were going through a few things.
A few challenges.
Yeah. So I was worried that I was going to get to Saturday night and have nothing left to give. Especially I hosted this. See, if I hadn't gone out on Saturday night, Friday night would have been my fuel up as well, because I had a heap of my girlfriends around for a dinner party, which was just super fun. We did pizza and pasta and Pinot and Prosecco.
Full Italian extravaganza.
Yeah, Italian extravaganza. Yeah, I think there's like 8 or 9 of us. And I love hosting. I love cooking. So that would have been my fuel up. But a few hours on the dance floor, sweaty and gross, was... yeah, just topped it. So I've got double fuel up, but both were just, spending time with my friends and feeling like things are slowly going back to normal.
Yeah, very nice.
And what about you, Nath? What fueled you up last week?
So for me, it was about feeling included and breaking into a new community. So on Saturday, I was meant to play my first game of footy, but it got cancelled just because we couldn't get a team together, but that's all right. So I ended up getting called up to do canteen duty at the footy ground.
So how was canteen duty? Did you serve heaps of meat pies and buckets of chips?
I sold out of meat pies and sausage rolls. No chips, but sold out of meat pies and sausage rolls. But it just felt really nice to be part of the community. Not just me going along attending training and things like that, but to actually be invited to be part of the community. So yeah, it just felt really nice. And it was great to watch a couple of games of footy and cheer along and be part of the atmosphere. And
yeah, I think it's nice to be able to contribute too.
Yeah, it is. And to be wanted to be a contributor, if that makes sense. Like I got put onto canteen duty, so it felt like I was actually a part of the community and not just someone who's going on to training at the moment.
So yours was about network as well?
Yeah, it was. Definitely.
Yeah. I think that the social connections, I feel like I'm still in almost like rebound from 2020 where it felt like we saw hardly anyone until right at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And now we're in the first quarter or so of 2021. I definitely still feel like I'm like rebounding and finding my feet from how much social time I want and need, and like kind of recalibrating to what's the right amount.
And how that all kind of fits in with our lives as well, because we've still got lots of things going on, and actually trying to work out where that social piece fits in is still a bit challenging, but we're getting there.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice that both of our fuel ups are, about social connections.
Yeah.
Hey, so before we get into this week's episode, I want to give a little bit of a disclaimer that we apologize for the quality of the audio. It's not up to our usual standard, and we appreciate all of you for sticking with us through it.
So let's get into it.
Today we've got Wendy and Scott Perry. Wendy is the Managing Director of Workforce Blueprint. She's an author, entrepreneur, and educator and mentor of entrepreneurs, founders, startups, scale-ups, students, and unicorn companies. Scott is an award-winning pitcher, inventor, investor, coach, and entrepreneur. He is the founder of Jaws Innovations, Perry Logic, Plumber's Mate, and co-founder of Thug Life Brewing and TL Plumbing and Building. He has extensive experience in coaching and mentoring, public speaking, training, workforce planning and development, as well as business consulting. So welcome to the podcast, you two.
Thank you for having us.
No worries.
Hey, we're really excited to have you here. What that bio or that introduction doesn't say is that you've also been married to one another for a very long time.
We have. It's like 1994 we got married.
Oh, wow. So, and how did that relationship start?
Well, it
I
started.
crashed her birthday
You
party.
crashed my 18th birthday party.
Yeah,
So,
amazing.
Teenage sweetheart.
So it sounds like that from both of your intros that you've got plenty of fingers in different pies and are super busy people. So I guess how do you go about managing and prioritizing the things that you're doing?
It's always a challenge, and I think that if you're pushing yourself and you're always challenging yourself, and you've got someone to support you, then you're always going to sort of move forward in a positive way. But I think that pushing yourself and having someone to support you around that is a really, really important thing. Yeah,
And we talk business a fair bit too. So
yeah, it's an interest for us, not just what we do from day to day.
So how do you go about creating that got your back sort of support for one another?
like we don't agree on absolutely everything. Like nobody does in a couple relationship. But we wouldn't sort of call each other out in public or something like that. But it's not only in work or business. Like it's also with our relationship with our daughters who are grown up now and our son-in-law and son-in-law in waiting. So there's only like a small network really of people that you can kind of rely upon. And for us, it's each other, the girls and the boys, and then Scott's parents and my parents. So it sort of extends to those relationships as well. Say something is happening with one of the girls, and even when they were younger, we'll discuss kind of a bit of a strategy together, and then we'll figure out how to be on each other's side to help them with whatever they might be facing. Or
yeah, I love that idea of coming together and discussing something between the two of you, working out a united front to be aligned with what you're doing.
If you're doing that and you're having that conversation away from like a public view, you can also say, like Wendy might say, Scott, hang on, you've been a bit harsh. Maybe you've got to be a bit softer here. Or maybe you're being too soft. Maybe you've got to... So you can have all those conversations and think about that outside of public forum where you can talk and advise and play scenarios out amongst each other. And sometimes that takes practice. So like having those conversations and those going through those scenarios and sharing those thoughts kind of lets you practice that conversation before you actually have it with your child, say. And I know it might sound weird to a lot of people, but it's really important to you. You will do that kind of thing, you know?
So you've obviously got your relationship in a place where there is a lot of trust and strength and support for one another. But way back at the beginning, how did you go about building a relationship that would allow you to create from that foundation?
I don't know that we were kind of like super conscious of any of that really. I think over time we became a bit more conscious of things that we probably now discuss, and even stuff like that strategy, that discussion before we kind of leap into things. But when we were younger, I think it was kind of more reactive.
I mean, the thing is, I think for me, I got lucky. 30 odd years ago, I was not nearly mature enough to sort of understand a lot of these things. But I think if you want that successful relationship, if you want that relationship where you got each other's back, the first thing you kind of got to do is find someone that wants the best for you, supports you to achieve what you can, be the best person you can, and encourages you to do so. So the first thing I'd suggest to anyone that's like sort of entering a new relationship is look for someone that does that, you know, wants the best for you, supports you to be the best you can, and encourages you to be the best you can. Because then you can sort of implement the second part of that strategy, which is want the best for the person you're with. encourage them to do so and support them in whatever way you can, because it's a two-way street. You can't be a great couple without looking after yourself and being great individuals. Your partner can't be the best for you if they're not the best for themselves. But it's that, you've got to look for somebody else that wants that for you first. You can't find somebody and try and push them to a position where they want and encourage that for you. If you look for those things first, you're going to be good. And then once you find those things, make sure you hang on to that relationship and look after that person by wanting the best for them, encouraging them to be the best they can, and supporting them.
Yeah, I like that you touched on that, because we believe that the relationship with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship that you have. You touched on it, well, maybe that's a bit selfish, but I think you need to share from the overflow. And if you deplete your own cup, you've got nothing to give. So I do like that.
You can't date if you're together all the time. Going on a date is just like doing something else together, you know what I mean? So it's that time apart kind of makes a date important.
Yeah, we've definitely noticed that recently too. I've been going back to the office a couple of days a week, and it's
woohoo!
But it is really nice to come home, having had a bit of time apart, and then coming back and seeing you. And, yeah.
Well, so Nate's been working from home the majority of the last 12 months or so, but before that, working from home was my jam, and he entered my office and my space. So it's nice to be getting a little bit of my own space back again. But yeah, it is a shift in dynamic. So your relationship's obviously gone, even just in the duration that you've been young couple and then early stage career and business, and then, new parents, and then parents of school-aged kids, and then on to you've now got adult children. What are some of the lessons that you wish you'd learned a little sooner?
Probably when I was younger, I used to expect more grand romantic gestures. Flowers or some sort of gift or something, or some sort of special surprise, and I did expect sometimes Scott to be a bit of a mind reader, so I guess over time you mature a bit, you figure out, well, how can he know? How can he know what's inside my brain and my head? And also it's more like day-to-day things. And we might just drive down the beach on the weekend and just sit, and we don't even necessarily have to talk, hang out, we just chill out with each other.
It's about understanding what's I think really taking the time to understand what's bugging your partner, what's important, what's the change that's going to make a major influence in their happiness and reduce their stress. And it might not be flowers, it might be it might not be grand gesture like a new car. It's not really that sort of thing. It's what's going to take that stress away and put them in a better position.
And I think quite often too, the grand gesture is so much about the thought that goes into it as opposed to the actual thing or whatever you might be giving. And so I think sometimes it doesn't actually need to be the expensive gift. It could just be that you've gone to the supermarket and you've bought the $5 bunch of flowers rather than buying the $100 bunch of flowers. Quite often it's the intent behind it rather than the actual gift or the gesture itself.
Well, I think we're quite a practical sort of couple too. So, for example, say I do have a new car and maybe it's bugging me that it's so dirty or whatever, and I just haven't taken it. So Scott will just wash it for me, or take it to the car wash. Simple little things that are kind of ongoing, aren't they? And it's because we do know what annoys each other, and we want to kind of take that off your plate.
So Wendy, did you have an experience, or was there a moment in your relationship where you had that realization that the grand gestures just weren't something that you needed?
Well, I did have this sort of thing that was a bit pivotal. So I think we were still maybe 22 or 3 or something like that. And Scott was doing a job for somebody, and he brought me home this necklace. And I'm like, I like it. It sort of looks a bit heavy or whatever. And I'm like, maybe I should take it back and get a different one. Scott's like, you can get whatever you want. But this was a good lesson. So we went into the jeweller's and I saw it in the window and I realised, oh my gosh, this is a really expensive, ridiculous piece of jewellery. Scott's got that for me. And
really expensive, ridiculous for an early 20s couple that had no money.
In context
by today's standards, but based on what we had back then,
that's it.
It was an extravagant gift at the time.
And then I said to
the lady said to you, if someone bought me that necklace, I would wear it. And
then when I saw the price and everything, I looked at the others and I'm like, I will wear it and never take it off. So there's a few little kind of crystallizing moments, and that was just one kind of example. So there's been kind of lots of little things over the time where you do realise what's important, and you just mature
Going back to what you said a little earlier about this, if you loved me or if you really knew me, you'd just know. And I think that's super common, and that we just have this person knows us so intimately and so deeply that they should just somehow be able to understand or dissect our expectations without us communicating them. How have the two of you kind of gone about learning to communicate those expectations?
Probably what we do now is we chat more about things and we debrief probably more about things. And if I am thinking something, then I sort of will say, so does that mean this, that and the other? It's like, no, or yes, or, probably not, or a mixture or whatever. So we just discuss those things in a bit more detail.
I relate to that. I don't know when we started debriefs, but now we'll be out at social occasions or whatever the thing might be. And at some point there will be an eye contact of a knowing that we're going to talk about this later. It's just this knowing of we're going to put that in the debrief, make sure we come back to that conversation. But yeah, it's just even just how, how did that go for you? What did you think? How was your experience? Did you experience that event the way that I experienced that event, or this showed up for me, or that showed up for me, or this person said this and I got me thinking about that. I don't know when that element of social decompression started in our relationship.
No, but it definitely wasn't there from the beginning, I don't think. It was something which has evolved over time, has come later on.
But it is interesting how our brain can fill in the story when you don't have any information. We just make it up. I think it's just human nature that when there's gaps, we want to fill them in, and if we don't have resources or information, we just create it.
We make it up or we imagine it.
Yeah. So, and I think even just being able to communicate, hey, this is how it makes me feel. I guess getting to a place where you can even say that is lots of people would not, and they just sit on that and harbor a growing level of resentment. So across the duration of your relationship, I'm sure there's been times where one of you has missed a beat or done something that's disappointed the other one, or there's been an incident where there's been maybe not a broken trust, but a fracture in trust. Do you have a way that you repair, or have you got a story about rebuilding after an incident?
I'm trying to think. I mean, we sort of have a tacit or a bit of a bank account or a brownie points or something like that. Probably lots of couples do.
I think that's really.
But, it's sort of for example, when I was traveling a lot, I would then sometimes feel guilty about that, or worry about that, or think that, a lot of burdens going on Scott, particularly around the kids and that sort of thing. But, he had times when he was away as well. But we would do simple things like he would always drop me off and pick me up at the airport. And we would use that transition time to sort of discuss things.
We went to one event somewhere and I picked you up. We went straight from the airport to a networking event. And I remember telling an older couple that I picked you up, and Wendy said, I always pick her up, whenever I possibly can. But they said, Deep Trouble's once a month, and I couldn't be bothered doing that. And I thought, I just remember that moment feeling really abrasive and thinking, well, at that point when I can't be bothered with my wife, I thought, well, am I doing the right thing by my wife if I'm not bothered by her, sort of staying there? You know what I mean? Because surely my wife deserves someone that is bothered. And if you truly love someone, then you'd want them to have someone who's bothered. And I thought, well, I better be that person that's bothered. A lot of people wouldn't see it necessarily with me, I think, because in a lot of contexts, very harsh. My brewery's called Thug Life Brewing. I think we're all multifaceted people. There's times you have to be harsh, there's times you have to be soft, and there's times you have to be all sorts of different things. But when it comes to that, I think I want to be bothered. If I'm not bothered, then it's not the right relationship for me. It's not the right relationship for Wendy. She deserves someone that should be bothered, should want to do that.
The more difficult times is when we have been apart for a while. I can manage about a week or two, but longer than that is really, really challenging. I remember one time you'd come back from Sydney and we just hugged for hours, we just needed that physical connection again and spend time with each other. Because we also live with each other, and youngest daughter and son-in-law in waiting, we call him, moved out last year too. So we are in the house all the time, but we have to kind of have more special or designated times.
And sometimes it's nice to be out of your home.
Yeah, we resonate with that after spending quite a bit of time indoors and at home together all the time last year. And then as soon as the restaurants and things started to open up and we had a bit more freedom, it was really amazing. Even though we were in each other's presence, the environment around us was different. So the conversation was completely different. And I think sometimes we can get a bit complacent about, oh, you know, we could just have dinner at home and that'll be fine. But as soon as we step out of the house and make a little bit of effort to shower and put on an outfit that you wouldn't just normally wear while you're lazing around at home, or even for dinner at home, but making that conscious effort and then take, you know, the transition between home and the destination, something happens that you're in a different place, you're in a different environment, and all of a sudden conversation can be completely different.
Yeah. You see things a little bit differently, or you don't get distracted by things at home maybe, but
you don't start picking up laundry and folding it while you're chatting. You're actually truly present with that person. Yeah. But Scott, I want to go back to what you said about that Wendy's deserves someone who would be bothered and has the willingness to put in effort and energy into their relationship. But I think it was Tony Robbins who said, like, a relationship is a place that you go to give, not get. And I think if you had two partners or two people in a relationship who both had the intent to come to it as a place of giving and, you know, are willing to pick up from the airport and pop the car through the car wash or pick up the thing on the way home. And if you were both actively being that person and showing up as a giver for your partner, you'd have an incredibly abundant and, you know, loving and nurturing relationship.
It's kind of difficult to say because I think the thing is a lot of people look for a relationship and they find somebody and they think, okay, I want this person and I want this person to be like that. And I think you've got to find the person that is like that first and say, okay, that's the person I want. Because, you know, if somebody doesn't want to give, if somebody doesn't want the best for you, if someone wants you to be, and like I said, there's TV shows right now that are on air that people are watching, maybe or maybe not.
They keep getting renewed season after season, so someone's watching them.
That's right. But, you know, you're looking at those relationships and you're going, that's not happening. You know, someone doesn't want the best for you. You know, I mean, someone doesn't want the best for their partner. And they obviously want something for themselves. And it's like what you want for yourself, you go and get outside of your relationship. You just look for someone that wants the best for you. And beyond that, the rest will be fine. But, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's like you want someone that wants the best for you. And that's what you've got to look for. Like you can't look for someone and go, I'm going to change them to be the person that wants the best for me.
Yeah, you don't buy a box of Sultana on a brand, take it home and then open it up and wonder why it's not Fruit Loops.
That is a freaking awesome analogy. You know what I mean? Look for someone that wants the best for you. Outside of that, everything else will change. It's like you need to find someone that wants the best for you, supports you to be that, encourages you to be that, and the rest will sort of work itself out as long as you become that person for the person that you've chosen to be with.
Before we wrap up, I'd just love to get one top tip for keeping a relationship fueled up or what you do within your own relationship to keep it fueled up.
Well, I think that designated time with each other is really key, and it doesn't have to be like a really complex thing or a date that has all these bells and whistles or whatever. It can be something quite sort of simple. But if you don't make time for each other, then it's really problematic. And I think probably what you learn over the years as well is how to prioritise and how to manage things, because you've got to give to yourself, you've got to give to your partner, you've got to give to your kids and friends and family and other people too. So probably the top number one is if this is the number one person in your life, you know, we're each other's number one person, then you've got to prioritise them and time with them above anything else.
Yeah, I love that.
And I think you've got to get yourself good. You know, you've got to keep your own headspace good. You've got to remain positive. You've got to make time for yourself. But as a couple too, you're never going to survive on your own. Like, you know, we're in a society now where we're codependent on so many other people. You know, we're codependent on people to produce our food, our energy, you know what I mean? Like, it's just the way it is. But in terms of your relationship, it's like your parents know that they could ring, you know, either one of us at the drop of a hat. You know, whatever happens, it's like we'll
be there. Yeah.
That's it. So you need, outside of your relationship, you need your cheerleaders and you need people that you support. But you've got to support those that are going to get back to you. You need to invest in yourself, your relationship, and those around you that are going to support you. Not those who are going to take and do nothing, but those who are going to support you.
And I think the other thing that's probably pretty influential is both of our parents and their relationship too, because they've been good examples of that very practical way as to how to have each other's back. We all like support crew for each other.
Yeah, I kind of think of that analogy of an F1 car driving into the pit lane, you know, and they've got a very small, highly trained, highly precision team around them who get in and are there to back up when something goes wrong. And it's a highly curated group of people, but they are a team and they support each other. And you watch them move around, they know how to work well together. And that's not by accident, it's by training, supporting one another. So yeah, I really like that.
But if the driver jumped out the car and turned around and I'm the one that drives the car and you
it wouldn't work.
I mean, they'd turn around and go, okay, whatever, like it's about that whole thing of like supporting those. And I think the mistake a lot of people, not a lot of people make, but there are people that do make the mistake of supporting people that don't necessarily give it back, so you kind of got to put it out first, but if it doesn't come back and it continually doesn't come back, family, not family, you just got to support those that are going to give it back.
Yeah, and that got your back sort of thing. We sort of verbalise that phrase, like we say it to each other as well. And we're pretty close with our daughters and our same line waiting. So like the 6 of us will go out for date nights or whatever. We'll encourage them and, celebrate what they've been able to do. And
if your partner wants that level of support for other people, they need to kind of give it too. Like I haven't told you yet, like Friday I'm going to Port Hughes because Jason really helped us out with our solar and all this. But, he's really done the right thing by me. And he's run me up today and said, can you come to Port Hughes on Friday? It's like, other people support us, so I've got to give that back because that's how we all grow and that's how we all get ahead. We don't get ahead by screwing one another, taking what we can, and because Jason will be there when we want him again, and Jeff. So, yeah.
Yeah, that value exchange. I like that. We want to say thank you so much for joining us. A lot of what we talked about tonight was that about being the change and taking accountability for yourself and your own relationship. But we also believe in taking accountability for the world that we want to live in and being the change that we want to see there too. So to say thank you, we've provided 100 days of clean water for some students in Zambia. And the cool thing about this project is that they've installed a pump right near the school. So not only do they get clean, fresh water, but the girls are actually then able to go to school because they're not spending their day walking to collect water. So it's a multifaceted project. So thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. And if people want to connect with you, how can they do that? If they want to learn more about you or one of your many businesses, how can they connect?
Best way for me is via LinkedIn. So Wendy Perry at LinkedIn. And what have you got there?
I think I'm trying to get onto Clubhouse a bit. So at Scott Perry on Clubhouse. If you've got an iPhone and you're at Clubhouse. If you don't, send me an email to scott@workforceblueprint.com.au and I'll see if I can find you an invite to Clubhouse.
So that you can hang out there. I love that.
Yeah, and Sammy's Sammy's got a massive following on Clubhouse. so you can also join, follow Sammy.
And all the great conversations on Clubhouse.
Or you can follow the brewery, thuglifebrewing.com.au.
Yeah, plug your stuff. I love that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Where can we get Thug Life?
Well, we
nowhere in Sydney.
Nowhere in Sydney at the moment, but hey,
can we order
there's
it?
An opportunity there.
You can order it online, and if you want to help us with a side hustle,
thuglifebrewing.com.au.
You can order it on the website. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating, because better relationships equal a better world.